Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. And just like that, you have arrived at another fabulous episode of the Her Voice Shines podcast. My name is Shanasia Washington. I am your fabulous host, streaming from none other than Houston, Texas. And let me tell you something, it is my Friday. I got a lot of energy. I don't know when you're going to see this, but just know I've been working real hard this week. What an amazing week it's been in podcasting. And I'm telling you, it's going to end on a high note because I have a beautiful guest today that's going to come to the stage and do our normal drill, which is tell us her name, where she's streaming from, and we get the magic of her story like always. Without any further waiting time, here's my very beautiful guest for today.
Hi there. Thanks, Shanasia. I really appreciate having me on today. My name is Nefrit El-Or. I'm streaming from Maryland. And I am a writer, blogger, singer-songwriter, and I'm an advocate for eating disorders, recovery, and late identified autism. And I've gone through a very transformative transformation of life journey for the last 5.5 years. I lived my life sort of always feeling like something was wrong with me. I felt like I was broken. Everything was always hard for me. I felt very different than other people. And then in 2020, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And that kind of gave an opportunity for a then undiagnosed eating disorder from which I suffered my entire life. But from lack of awareness and recognition, I didn't know that I was suffering from it. And at that point, my eating disorder kind of hitchhiked on that, and I started losing weight very rapidly. At that point, because I was living a life feeling, like I said, just something was wrong with me, like I had this internal flaw. At the point that I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I felt like that's it. I was just kind of done with life. And that gave me an out to I was just burnt out on life, and I'm done. I'm just done. And with the eating disorder taking control, along with the Crohn's diagnosis, my rapid weight loss continued while people thought that I was dying from Crohn's, which I actually brought myself into a natural remission from. Nobody knew that what was really happening, that I was losing weight from my eating disorder, from anorexia nervosa, and myself included. I did not have the wherewithal to understand it. I had misconceptions about what it was. And for 3 years, I kept on losing weight. I was consistently starving myself on purpose as a part of this disease. And after 3 years, I knew, and it coincided with pandemic, and nobody was really there to witness this beside my husband and my kids and my parents. But after 3 years, I knew that if I kind of went through a lot of internal processes and thinking about what was going on, and it was a great battle for 3 years. I knew that if I didn't say something, I would die, and my kids, I have 2 kids and husband, and they would be left without a mother, a wife. And I opened up the closet door, came out of the closet about revealing the grand secret. And it was really at that point, more than anything, an admission to me that I had a problem. And after that, my husband and I knew that, it was kind of slowly revealing to people around me, starting work with professionals. And we knew that we had to confide and get the help from other people. And after a lot of hard work, I finally, on my own, understood that I needed to go to treatment, left my family for almost a year, spent in treatment in a year, and I was diagnosed with autism during the age of 43, which was really the thing that saved my life. So I went through treatment. I finished it with flying colors, really. It was a big battle for almost a year.
Sure.
But along with the diagnosis of autism, which kind of saved my life because it kind of elucidated to me what was going on, together it was just what saved my life. And at the end of this journey, I had a knowing that my goal is to help others, use my very, very difficult, profound experience, help others navigate their journeys, find their voice, make mental health issues something that is not a taboo, and kind of be an ambassador for recovery, inspiring others.
Sure. Thank you for that, Nefrit. What a journey. I think that you've done a lot of work. And also too, when you were kind of talking about that, I did see some emotionally charged places. So I'm just very honored that you're here to share that story, and I don't take it lightly. I want to go back because you made this statement. You said that, or you alluded to the statement when I asked you some questions before getting here. You said that you shared that your life once felt broken and full of self-hate. That's a good statement. And that's what we gathered from what you sent us. Take us back to the moment you got the diagnosis for Crohn. Let's go right back to that moment. They're finally telling you this is what it is. Tell me that, and tell me what, we know that you were going through everything, but tell me what you were carrying. What did it feel like Nefrit was carrying inside of her? And then now there's the Crohn's. Tell us about that day, that moment, that time.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Crohn's wise, I knew that I had symptoms for a long, long time, but I was afraid to go check what it was. And it took me about a year to actually go get the colonoscopy, which confirmed my severe Crohn's diagnosis. But at that point, the diagnosis of the Crohn's, it's really like before and after. It was 2020. So it was like my life before the diagnosis of Crohn's, which entailed afterwards diagnosis of autism and anorexia. So before that, I lived in a life of, I felt like I was just living in just darkness my entire life, just not knowing to ask questions, not understanding why things were so different with me. Nobody could see on the outside, there's no external markers to tell anybody that I was really struggling. The struggle was internal. And at the time when I was diagnosed, the thing that made the difference for me was actually the reaction of the doctors to my diagnosis, because they really instilled a lot of fear in me. And, I've been told if I wasn't going to follow a specific medical regimen, it was to take immune suppressing drugs. And along with the, pandemic, it scared me very much. And the symptoms were very real and severe. And I didn't want to take those drugs. And they kept telling me, one doctor after another, that I was going to lose my guts and all kinds of, dark premonitions. And that instilled a lot of fear in me, and the fear shut down my appetite, and I started losing weight. But the thing that made a difference for me was that when I shut down because of fear, really because of fear, it kind of gave me, it kind of gave me an out from life. I just couldn't do anything all of a sudden. I had a lot of pain, and my eating disorder started to take over because of the weight loss. And I was just I was done. All of a sudden, I from being a very active person, taking everything on me, I was just from being everything to everybody to nothing. And I kind of gave myself, this was my out. That's it. I don't have to do anything anymore. I don't have to be anymore. And I couldn't take care of the kids. I couldn't write. I couldn't do the finances or clean or nothing. I was just nothing. And in some crazy way, it kind of gave me relief because I didn't have to fight anymore with myself. I didn't have to fight with life anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. One of the parts too about your story, you had to check into treatment.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt like a double-headed sword almost. I'm like, yeah, this is a great thing that she's checking the treatment, she's doing the thing. But tell me, what did it feel like to leave your family behind when you check in the treatment? Because that's like a double thing to deal with. It's this really great thing that I'm doing to go and help myself, and I'm, going towards healing. But at the same time, I'm also having to leave my family behind. Can you kind of talk about that and how did that feel? Because I know that you probably had to cycle through a lot to make that bold decision to go to your next step of healing.
Yeah, it wasn't an overnight decision. It actually took a long, long time, and we had to go through multiple teams. When you're dealing with an eating disorder, you have to have an entire team, like a psychiatrist and a therapist and a doctor and a nutritionist. So we had several teams. I was on the brink of death. My body was shutting down. So it was clear to everybody, all the teams that we were working with, that I have to go to treatment. I had to have medical supervision 24/7. And it was crucial that I go, and I just was scared to go for all sorts of reasons. And I wouldn't. And I tried to do it at home for a while. And after realizing, after everybody told me, you got to go. And, I was under medical supervision at home, weekly blood tests and all sorts, but it wasn't enough. And I realized that I, on my own, eventually I acquiesced to the process, and I said, you know what? I got to go. And the moment that I made that decision gave me a lot of relief. I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm finally going to help myself. I'm going to get the help that I need. Because at that stage, fighting an eating disorder at home was just not doable. So it was, it was a decision, knowing that I'm going to leave my kids there's just no other choice. I was dying. So on the one hand, it was full of conflict, an internal conflict. I'm going to leave my kids in their homeschool. Who's going to take care of them while I'm gone? And how is it going to work? On the other hand, I just knew I had to do it, because otherwise they will have no mother. And we made it work. Our wonderful homeschool community, stepped up to the plate and helped my husband, my kids, and my mother-in-law came from Israel to stay with them to help. So, I had a lot of moments afterwards that I felt like, oh my gosh, I leaving my kids, it was such a hard thing to do, but also, not being there for them at home was also hard. So any way you look at it, it's hard.
It really is a situation, and I said this too at one point in my life, where I had to pick my heart. It's going to be hard either side, but I had to pick the hard to navigate through that was like most beneficial for the moment. And it doesn't mean that the other thing that I didn't pick wasn't hard too, but I'm happy you in that moment. And this is not to at all, please, sound selfish at all.
Yeah.
I'm happy in that moment you chose yourself for the greater good of your family, if that makes sense. Like you chose it, but that was for everything else that was connected. It was a tough time, but it was worth it, to get that. And I understand I'm a homeschool mom too. I probably would have had all kinds of things, but to worry about, because I know the system that we have in place for my son and all these different things. So the fact that you did it in free, let me just tell you, I'm incredibly proud of you.
Oh,
I'm incredibly proud of you for doing that and making such a tough decision. Really, I think to save your family. You may not look at it like that, but I look at it like that. I look at it to save your family, because they needed a more complete and whole mom to continue the journey with them. So that's why I said it that way. Now, one of the things I looked at in your form, you said that, there is this link that could be between, eating disorders as well as autism, and it's often missed. Why do you think it's so often missed, and what do you think you would like to see in treatment? Because I had never linked the two really, but when I was reading and dissecting your story, I said, that's definitely interesting, that many of them have a link that's really not seen. Tell us a little bit about that, and what do you think, from your perspective, could probably be changed in treatment?
Yeah. Thank you for asking this. I, within like 1 year, I got all these diagnoses. Well, no, 3 years span, I got all these diagnoses, things that I didn't know anything about before. I had misconceptions, lack of knowledge about anorexia, about autism, and I was kind of, brought up to speed with clinicians, and after the diagnosis and reading and talking to other people on the spectrum, I got a much more in-depth understanding of what's going on. And the statistics are staggering. Even in treatment, there are some people who were able to tell me to educate me about this. Between 20 to 30% of women with anorexia are on the autism spectrum, and this is huge. And my struggles, the first part of treatment, I had very significant struggles in treatment. It was the first 5 months, and then the last of my other 5 months were actually very good. They were very beneficial. But the first 5 months, I dealt with a lot of, kind of dealing with lack of knowledge on the professional side and lack of understanding how to work with people on the spectrum with eating disorders. Because treating people who have neurotypical, who are, their brain is wired in a certain way, and then there are the neurodivergent people who are wired in a different way, which, the autism spectrum is a neurodivergent condition. So working with those two profiles needs to look very, very different with eating disorders. Now, there is a big link between eating disorders and autism. There is a big propensity to develop eating disorders just for one, the kind of the nature of autism. For one, there's a lot of challenges with texture, with flavors. For me, many years, it was for me like separating foods. I don't like the food touch, and I like to be able to kind of demarcate the different flavors and decide when I taste things, and it's not all on one plate and touching. So like I said, a lot of people have texture issues and flavors, but it's also something that I learned. Not everybody, of course, this is not towards everybody, but a lot of people on the autism spectrum, they have kind of a need to stick to rules and to have guidelines, because I understood from my own experience, there's a lot of that's going on in your head. You're kind of living in an internal chaos, and then there is an external chaos, and people are unpredictable, and life's unpredictable. It's very, very hard to live in this kind of world, internal and external chaos. So that's when rules come into play. They help you. They give you kind of a topographical itinerary, if you want, through this chaos. They tell you what to do, when to do, creates a little bit of safety in the chaos. And when you are a person who struggles a lot, especially, I want to say people who are undiagnosed, for instance, there isn't something to explain to you. Nobody's explained to you what's going on. Why are you struggling so much? So eating disorders can turn into a coping mechanism. And a lot of people develop anxiety, depression, a lot shame, embarrassment, without this understanding what's going on with them. And turning to eating disorders is as a coping mechanism, because for one, they do give you this kind of rules that you need. It gives you like a sense of success. When I am feeling like I'm failing in the world, and the world is not, I don't understand what's going on in the world, don't understand what's going on with me, everything is just one big difficulty, restricting food or, any form of eating disorder behavior, it kind of gives you a sense of success. You're actually doing it. And people on the spectrum, another thing, there's a tendency to get kind of hyper focused on things. And once you start something, you go with it. You go with it. You go with it. It's very hard to stop. So even if like something like a weight loss, or you just want to lose weight, or for whatever reason you turn into this kind of behaviors, it becomes something you almost like you delve into, like I don't want to say obsession, but you get into it more and more and more and more. And even when you want to stop, you can't stop. So there's a lot of correlation, a lot of reasons why people on the spectrum might turn into eating disorders. And and there's also ARFID. There's also like a type of eating disorder called ARFID that people have because of textures, because of
I mean, I found it incredibly interesting, to kind of to tie that link together, because I had never thought about that, never entered my world. But the fact that you came and shared that, it really kind of turned on a bunch of different light bulbs, and I was like, okay, well, I can see there can be a correlation. So thanks for sharing that. Now, you've done a lot of work, Nefrit, and I've said this a couple segments ago, but there is someone out there that is struggling, that's undiagnosed, and that feels absolutely invisible, and that has went through similar things as you have. What would you tell a person that is in that particular situation? Because there are people that have not gotten to this level of work within themselves. And I just want you to talk to someone who may be in that rut of feeling invisible amongst all these other things.
Yeah. Thank you also for asking this. For me, after this whole journey, the main thing that I would say that I took from that, and I would kind of impart that to other people struggling, is the lesson of self-love. That was a huge, it's kind of like ground zero for me. It's base for any type of healing, really, for being a human here on this planet. And for me, living as an individual who had just really deep self-hate my entire life to get to the point where I started feeling self-love, it's huge. And it wasn't like a hop, skip, and a jump. It wasn't like an overnight transformation. It took hard work and it took time. And I started, for me, the catalyst was the diagnosis, because I could finally understand myself. But you don't need to have a diagnosis. The process of self-love can start with just giving yourself grace and letting yourself embrace what it is that you're feeling without judgment, and just giving yourself grace to feel what you're feeling, and then to slowly aspire to move on to self-acceptance, and to keep on working on, people can come to this in all sorts of ways. Each and every one of us might have a different way, but to aspire to eventually come to the point where you are practicing, if you need, radical self-love, but to not only embrace who you are, but celebrate it, to understand we're all here beautifully, different, and we're meant to be different, and we all shine. I love the name of your podcast, because we all shine in our own unique way. So we get a lot of our power and from external validation. We live, a lot of us live our lives always waiting for others to validate to us that we're okay, that we're valued. But to practice that kind of, I don't need to listen to anybody else. I have it inside of me. I'm valued just because I'm here. And to start practicing that, whether you have a diagnosis or you don't have a diagnosis, to start giving yourself compassion, just radical self-compassion, and start working on loving yourself, I think.
Nefrit, that's so beautiful. And it's actually come up as a heavy theme, probably the last 3 recordings, that power of self-love. And it's truly one of the pillars of why this podcast really even exists, because, and I say this often in a lot of these podcasts, that really this podcast, everything I touch, is such an embodiment of self-work that I've done for myself, the things that I had to go through and unwrite for myself, which was really a reflection of self-love, so that you've gotten so much that into your journey that's the reality for you. I'm super excited. And I'm so happy that you turned that internal spotlight into Nefrit and use that as your navigation system, because so many of us are living based on someone else's yes of us, someone else's approval of us, someone else's acceptance of us. And guess what? Those ties are always changing.
Exactly.
They may accept you Monday to free, but Friday they may slam the door in your face. So that's where that internal grounding comes from, and really why it's so important. Now let me go here, Nefrit, because I want it to be a clear segment where you can give us a few connection points. Tell us a little bit about the music, so that we know where to contact you and where to find your gems, which is your music. So I'm going to cue over you for that segment, and then I'll be right back.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I have my music on every major platform, Apple Music, Spotify, many other platforms, Pandora. But you can directly download my music on my website, which is when I get the most out of, if you would like to support me and my work, the best way to do that would be to download my music through my website, and which is nefritelor.com, NEFRITEL-OR.com. And I also have a blog on Medium, on the Medium platform, which I constantly blog on all these issues. And I just finished writing a book, and I'm in the process of shopping for agents about my whole journey. And hopefully it will be published and would be out there and be available to purchase. So yeah, thank you for asking.
Of course, Nefrit, we're not going to leave. We're not going to leave here without them knowing about all the goods that you're working on. That's another reason why this place exists, specifically for that. Now, I want to go here. I want to play our rapid fire round. These are pre-prepared questions that I have prepared for you. You don't get a whole lot. You get like a word or maybe a couple sentences. These are designed to keep you present in the moment and on your mission. Number 1, a word that defines you today.
Love. Pretty easy for me. Right on. Love.
I promise I did not know that you were going to say that, because my number 2 was, or is, what does love mean to you?
Oh, that's beautiful.
I didn't know you were going to say that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. During my healing journey, part of the things that I did for myself was starting to meditate. And while I started to meditate, during that time, and I've been doing this for 5.5 years, I started to kind of tap into what I felt like a force greater than me, force of love, a universal love, the creation force that I understood to be love. And I also understood that it was in us, inside of us. And we are it is us. And I've been practicing extending this love out to the world, regardless of outcomes, and to myself, to the trees, to the planet, to strangers, because I understood that really, this is it. This is what life is all about this phenomenal, the greatest force there is love. And to me, this is what living is all about. Yeah.
Tell me something you had to unlearn to heal.
To me, I don't think there is unlearning. There's always only learning. So I think we always build on past experiences. And I think there are no mistakes in life. I think everything we go through is just an opportunity for growth. So I'm actually very grateful for everything that I went through. And I went through quite a lot. But the biggest thing would be if to close to answering your question is self-hate, really, and transform it into love. Yeah.
That's good. What do you want more people to know about autism?
Well, I would like people to know that it is a spectrum, a rainbow, which means you can fall, along this beautiful spectrum anywhere along the spectrum. And capabilities differ from one person to another. And a very important thing that I didn't know, it's that it presents very differently from men than women. So women have very different presentation of that. So, and it's never about, I would hear it from friends of mine. I didn't get that, but friends of mine related that to me. They would get those sentences, "Oh, you don't look autistic." And, autism doesn't have a look. It's all about what's going on inside. So I think that's really, really important to remember.
I love that. Now, we're only on the 6th day of the month, so we can even say last month. Tell me the most favorite moment that you've had with your kids this month. But like I said, 6 days in. So we'll accept May. But give me a moment. It could be very small that you've had with your children.
Well, think
about it, huh?
Yeah, no. One day I came home a few weeks ago, and my husband, my 2 kids, they got these 2 turkey chicks. What? They surprised me with the turkey chicks. And I think this month was just spending outside, like June now, the weather is just beautiful. Spending outside with them, doing schooling with the turkey chicks. Out on the grass with the turkey chicks. I'm in our yard. That was beautiful. So we're celebrating life this way.
Okay. Finish this. I feel most aligned when
I am present in the moment, connected to love, capital L, love.
Capital L.
Yeah.
Tell me what your current source of joy is. What brings you joy?
I think my endeavors, my advocacy work, and this kind of thing. Bringing awareness to the world, helping people, bringing love and light to other people's lives. Being present with my kids and my husband and celebrating life, which is something I didn't do all those years that I was very sick. I missed out on a lot. So, yeah.
And this is our final one. Finish the sentence. And I think I know the answer. Healing starts with
self-love.
There you go. I told you. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. That's it, because we had a whole segment on it. Now listen to Freak. Let me tell you something. Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuously showing up to make sure that we got this done. These stories matter the most to me because, number one, I get to learn. I get to view the world through your perspective, through your lens, and I do not take that lightly. This is the part in our show where we cue over to our guests for final thoughts. We ask them to give us some great parting words for the space that we shared, and really something that captures the essence of Nefrit. I'll cue over to you for final thoughts, and I'll be back to close the show. So your final thoughts.
Look at this. Final thoughts. Yeah. I think that living life from my experience, living life with acceptance and acceptance of everything, of the self, of the past, the present, anything that's going to transpire in the future, is huge. Learning how to live in the moment, and alongside acceptance, to find your way into harmony through love. Harmony, body and soul harmony, is really the way to live. And unearthing the essence of love inside yourself as your guidance. Because I always say, one of the things I want to teach people and help people learn is that the guidance of love is in each and every one of us. And I always want to say, don't follow me. I can show you the tools of how I found that, but it's inside of you. You have the one and only guidance you need, the guidance of love inside of you. And you don't have to look into presidents or your teachers, or your mothers and your fathers even. You follow your internal guidance of love, and that would make a tremendous change in your life once you do that, once you practice following that guidance. So yeah.
Absolutely. It is all about that internal core, Nefrit. Thank you. And I'm working every day to keep mine cultivated for the journey, to keep mine pure, to keep mine loving, and keep mine connected. I really work hard to do that. So look, listen, I have to tell you again, I have enjoyed this space of the Her Voice Shines podcast. And let me tell you, so all the women that are watching, I'll tell you, miraculous things happen when you let your voice shine. You just show up and do it. And like the old church folks say, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And I'll see you next time on the Her Voice Shines podcast. Until then, we're out.